Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking a deep plunge into a really crucial aspect of modern business resilience, navigating the world of compliance management. Specifically, we're zeroing in on ISO 37301. That's the international standard for compliance management systems.
That's right.
And our mission today is to really unpack the distinct yet, well, incredibly interconnected roles of two vital players here, the internal auditor and the lead auditor.
Yeah, they sound similar, but they're quite different.
Exactly. We want to help you understand precisely who does what, why their roles are just non-negotiable, and how their unique contributions build an organization's pathway to robust compliance and, frankly, sustained trust.
And, getting that distinction right isn't just academic. It's absolutely essential for anyone who really cares about ensuring the integrity of a compliance management system, a CMS.
Right.
Think of this deep dive as your shortcut, maybe, to being genuinely well-informed about how organizations don't just tick boxes for regulations, but actually embed a real culture of ethics and accountability.
Seeing beyond the paperwork, like you said.
Exactly. It's about the real-world impact.
Okay, so we're peeling back the layers, how compliance works from the inside out, and then how it gets validated from the outside in. Let's start with that internal perspective.
Good place to start.
When we talk ISO 37301, who exactly is an internal auditor? What's their main function in this whole ecosystem? What are they actually doing?
Okay. So at its core, an internal auditor is a trained individual, but critically, they operate within the organization itself.
Okay, inside the house.
Inside the house, yes. Their primary function is conducting independent and, importantly, objective audits of the company's own compliance management system.
So checking their own work, in a way.
Well, yes, but with structure. They're meticulously assessing if that CMS truly follows the detailed ISO 37301 requirements and also the organization's own specific policies and procedures, which might go further. You could think of them as the organization's internal health monitor, constantly checking the vital signs, looking for those early warning signals, not just waiting for a big breakdown.
The internal health monitor. I like that. It sounds proactive. So it's more than just checking boxes then. What are some of their key responsibilities that show this proactive approach? How do they embed that vigilance?
Oh, definitely more than box checking. Their responsibilities are pretty comprehensive, and they really embody that proactive spirit you mentioned. For instance, they conduct scheduled internal audits, usually throughout the year, not just a one-off thing.
Right, ongoing checks.
Exactly. And during these audits, they're rigorously evaluating compliance against, well, several things. Legal obligations, regulatory requirements, and, as I said, the company's own internal rules.
Oh.
But, and this is key, it's not just about finding faults. A huge part of their value, maybe the most valuable part, is identifying what we call nonconformities.
Nonconformities. Sounds serious.
It can be, but it's broader than just outright breaches. It could be a gap in a procedure, maybe a process isn't being followed consistently, or perhaps an old policy that hasn't caught up with new regulations.
Okay. So potential weak spots.
Precisely. They also spot potential risks before they become problems, and importantly, opportunities for improvement. They're not just fault finders.
Right. Improvement focused.
And they distill all this into detailed audit reports for management, but they don't stop there. They actually follow up on the corrective actions.
Making sure things get fixed.
Making sure things get fixed, exactly. Ensuring issues aren't just noted, but genuinely resolved and hopefully prevented from happening again.
So they're part detective, part advisor, part enforcer of fixes. Sounds like a demanding role. What kind of skills, what competencies are really essential for someone doing this effectively? It sounds sensitive.
You've hit on a critical point there. It is demanding. To do it well, an internal auditor needs, first off, a really robust understanding of all the ISO 37301 clauses. Not just what they say, but their intent.
The why behind the rule.
The why, exactly. And this has to be combined with deep, sort of nuanced knowledge of their organization's specific setup, its operations, its compliance framework, because every company is different, right?
Makes sense.
Beyond that, they need to be good at the basic auditing techniques. Things like conducting effective interviews, knowing how to properly collect and verify evidence, analyzing data, the mechanics of auditing.
The toolkit.
The toolkit, yes. But maybe the most vital competencies are, well, the softer skills, unwavering objectivity, and strict confidentiality.
Objectivity. Inside your own company, that must be tricky.
It's the challenge. They have to assess processes, maybe even colleagues, dispassionately. And their findings, especially if they're sensitive, need absolute discretion.
So how do they navigate that? Being objective when auditing colleagues or other departments? And what's the big picture, the strategic importance of having this function, especially now with regulations seemingly always increasing?
Yeah, that objectivity piece is where the rubber meets the road. Maintaining it internally is a constant effort. It needs strong ethics, clear mandates, and often direct reporting lines. Maybe to top management or an audit committee, something that gives them a bit of independence from the areas they audit.
Right, some structural support.
Exactly, and their strategic importance. You really can't overstate it. Internal auditors are effectively the organization's first line of defense.
First line, how so?
Because by promoting self-assessment, by driving continual improvement from within, they help fine-tune the system. They catch potential issues before an external auditor shows up, or even more critically, before something blows up into a major fine or a reputational disaster.
So spotting the small cracks before they become chasms.
Perfectly put. Think of it like this. An internal auditor might spot a pattern of inconsistent record keeping, maybe mistraining, or a policy that wasn't updated after a legal change, long before it becomes a systemic failure.
Finding it early.
Finding it early, it's not just about error correction, it's about embedding that culture of vigilance. It's preventative maintenance versus catastrophic engine failure.
That's a powerful comparison. Preventative maintenance versus catastrophe. Okay, that really drives home the value. Now, if the internal auditor is focused on self-improvement, keeping the house in order, preparing for scrutiny, how does a lead auditor fit in, especially when a company wants that official ISO 37301 certification? This is where it gets really interesting, right?
Indeed. This is where the dynamic shifts quite significantly. The lead auditor steps in as the external independent validator.
External.
Yes. They're typically a highly certified professional. Often they're engaged through a third-party certification body, one of the organizations that actually grants the ISO certificates.
Right, the official bodies.
And they don't just work alone. They lead audit teams during these external audits.
Leading a team.
And these external audits are specifically for either getting that initial ISO 37301 certification, the stamp of approval, or for the ongoing surveillance audits needed to keep the certification.
Checkups.
The checkups, exactly. Their overall responsibility covers the whole audit lifecycle, planning it meticulously, executing it expertly, and then delivering that comprehensive report on the findings. They're essentially the eyes and ears of the certification body.
Eyes and ears, ensuring the company really meets the standard. So not just an auditor, but the general leading the external audit team, validating for certification. What does that look like day to day when they're actually doing the audit? How do they manage that process?
General is a good analogy in terms of responsibility. They orchestrate the whole thing. It starts with them leading their audit team, assigning specific tasks based on who has what expertise and what the scope of the audit is.
Dividing the work.
Right. Then they plan the audit in detail. This means digging into the company's documentation, deciding how they'll sample records or processes, setting very clear objectives for the audit.
Setting the agenda.
Absolutely. And crucially, they conduct both the opening and the closing meetings. The opening meeting sets the stage, clarifies the plan, answers initial questions. The closing meeting, well, that's where they present the findings, and that can have major implications.
High-stakes meetings.
Very high stakes. A core part of their job during the audit is rigorously validating all the findings and evidence collected by their team. They have to ensure everything is sound, objective, defensible.
Checking the checkers, in a way?
You could say that, yes. Ultimately, they prepare that final detailed audit report. It outlines where the company conforms to the standard and, critically, where it has nonconformities.
And then,
based on that report, they make the formal recommendations. Either recommend for certification, recommend continued certification if it's a surveillance audit, or maybe recommend that corrective actions are needed before certification can happen or be maintained.
wow. So they hold a lot of power in that recommendation. That sounds like it needs a much higher level of qualification, given the weight of their judgment, basically, pass or fail on certification. What does a lead auditor need to have, under their belt?
Yeah, the qualifications are definitely rigorous, as you'd expect. It's not just about having some experience. They absolutely must have completed a recognized, often internationally accredited ISO 37301 lead auditor training course.
Formal training, not just intern.
It's a formal intensive program. Then, obviously, they need demonstrated deep knowledge of ISO 37301 itself, but also they need expertise in broader audit methodologies and principles, like those in ISO 1911.
ISO 19011. What's that?
Good question. For anyone not deep in standards, ISO 19011 is essentially the international guideline for how to audit management systems in general. It's the rule book for conducting audits properly, ensuring they're consistent, credible, no matter the specific standard like 37301.
Got it. The how-to for auditors.
Exactly. Beyond the training and knowledge, significant practical experience leading audits in different types of organizations is really non-negotiable.
Real-world leadership.
Real-world leadership. And finally, they need top-notch skills in communication, leadership itself, and reporting. Because they're not just crunching data, they're managing a team and delivering very high-stakes news to top management.
Right. Needs the technical and the people skills. So clearly a demanding role. What's the significant importance of this lead auditor role in the grand scheme of things for a company's compliance journey? What really hangs in the balance based on their work?
Well, their importance really can't be overstated. They provide that truly unbiased third-party evaluation. That impartiality is just critical. It's what gives the certification itself credibility and generates trust.
The outside perspective matters.
Tremendously. They play the key role in the actual certification process. They're the independent judge deciding if the organization genuinely meets this global standard. Their findings give vital assurance not just to the company itself, but to its stakeholders, its customers, even regulator.
So it signals trust outwards.
Precisely. Ultimately, their audit report directly influences whether an organization gets or keeps its ISO 37301 certification. And that has huge implications for reputation, for market access, sometimes for avoiding penalties. It's a high-stakes assessment providing confidence to the wider world.
Okay, that's a really clear picture of each role now. So let's put them side by side. When we compare them directly, what are the absolute core distinctions that define them? Let's start with maybe the most basic, their role type.
Absolutely. Comparing them directly really highlights how they complement each other. So role type. The internal auditor is fundamentally an in-house employee. They're embedded in the organization.
Right.
The lead auditor, typically an external or certified professional, brought in specifically for that independent third-party assessment.
Okay, in-house versus external. Clear difference. What about their primary goals, their objectives? How do those differ?
Big difference here, too. The internal auditor's main goal is all about internal improvement, looking inward, enhancing the CMS performance continuously, finding vulnerabilities, fostering that compliance culture.
Continuous improvement inside.
Yes. The lead auditor's objective, it's to assess conformance for certification, looking outward, validating the system against that global ISO 37301 standard, providing the basis for that official stamp.
Validation for the outside world. Got it. And training. We touched on it, but let's make that distinction sharp.
Yeah, very significant difference. For an internal auditor, specialized training is vital, sure, but it might be an internal auditor course or relevant experience might suffice in some cases. For a lead auditor, it has to be that specific, formalized, usually internationally recognized ISO 37301 lead auditor course. It signifies a higher bar, broader skills needed for external validation.
Okay, a much more standardized, higher level requirement for the lead. And independence. You both stressed how crucial that is. Seems like a key differentiator, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's the bedrock of their credibility. Now, an internal auditor should be impartial. They definitely shouldn't audit their own work or department.
Right.
But they are still an employee. A lead auditor, by definition, must be completely independent of the organization being audited. Zero conflicts of interest allowed, real or perceived. Their assessment has to be utterly unbiased to mean anything.
Complete independence for the lead auditor. Makes sense.
Right.
Finally, who do they report their findings to? That must really show their different places in the structure.
Exactly. Reporting lines tell a big story, the internal auditor. They typically report upwards within their own company. Maybe to the compliance manager, head of internal audit, sometimes straight to top management or the board. The point is, their findings drive internal action. The lead auditor, they report directly to the certification body that hired them. Their final report then goes to the organization's top management, yes, but it's the basis for the certification body's decision.
So internal reporting drives internal change. External reporting drives external validation.
You've got it. These distinct objectives, the different levels of independence, the separate reporting lines, they ensure different kinds of oversight and accountability.
Yeah.
Their methods might look similar sometimes, interviewing people, looking at records, but their strategic positions, their ultimate goals, entirely unique, yet profoundly interdependent for a strong compliance posture.
That brings it all together so clearly. So what we've seen today is that the internal auditor is like the organization's own mirror, right? Constantly reflecting on performance, finding spots to improve, driving that continuous improvement from the inside. They're the proactive guardians, weaving compliance into the company fabric.
Well said.
And the lead auditor, they're the external validator, that critical, unbiased eye, bringing credibility, bringing that ultimate stamp of certification. Understanding these two distinct, but like you said, deeply complementary roles isn't just, useful information. It feels absolutely vital for any organization that's pursuing or trying to maintain ISO 37301 compliance.
Yeah.
It's about building a system that's robust, trustworthy, one that can stand up to scrutiny from both inside and out.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought for you, our listeners, to mull over based on this distinct but complementary relationship we've discussed.
Yeah.
In this world we're in, with regulatory demands constantly increasing, public scrutiny higher than ever, the need for trust paramount.
Yeah.
How does embracing both that rigorous internal scrutiny and that independent external validation truly redefine what it means for an organization to be, well-informed, resilient, and genuinely ready for whatever comes next? What concrete steps could your organization take to really strengthen that powerful dual approach?